What is going on, you guys? This is Era Cuts for the Win, and in case you haven't been living under a rock, you know what I'm about to talk about, alright? The Video Game Award nominees just got released a couple days ago. I did a live stream where I picked the games I thought was gonna win or what games I'm voting on, so if you want to go back and check that out, you can. But we're going to talk about the nominee process for this year specifically and why it's looking a little spooky. Everybody is talking about Death Stranding and how the favoritism and bias is clearly there when it comes to Geoff Keighley, and a lot of people are talking about the credibility of this show, if it's being compromised, because obviously with Geoff Keighley hosting, him being a super fan of Kojima and Death Stranding, it's not looking so good in terms of that. Now, we know that Geoff Keighley does not actually vote when it comes to the panel. He is not a part of that. He just hosts, he just runs it. And we also do know that Kojima is part of the board, I believe, when it comes to this award show in general. But we're gonna dig a little bit deeper in this video, and I'm gonna bring up something else that I don't really see a lot of people talking about. And I have to give credit to my friend Alton, shout out to you. In the Discord, he let me know, like, hey, there's something else fishy going on here, and it brought it to my attention. So I wanted to bring that up in this video. But let me just say that when it comes to Death Stranding, I was not surprised at all that it was nominated as much as it was, especially when it came to Game of the Year. Despite it being very polarizing and having some bad reviews out there, I'm not really surprised at all that it's here as much as it is. So I'm not really going to focus on Death Stranding as much as another game, which I thought was the biggest surprise, and that is Control. If we look at the list of how many nominees each of these games have, Death Stranding stands at the top with 10, again, not surprising. But then Control is at number 2 with 8 nominations. Now, if you want to compare that to a game like Fire Emblem, which I think got snubbed very hard, Fire Emblem only has 1 nomination. Then if you want to get into other games like Gears, there's only 3 nominations for Gears. 4 nominations for Apex Legends. Sekiro has 5. Control sitting at 8 nominations. That stood out to me the most. When it was announced for Game of the Year as a nominee and other categories, it stood out to me like, what is going on here? What is Control that good? And I haven't played it, so let me go ahead and state that. And I'm not trying to say it's a bad game. I'm really not. But the consensus I've seen is that it's a solid game. From the people I know who've played it, they've said it's a good game, it's decent, but they've never really put it in that category of like Game of the Year caliber. Like they've just never really thought of it that way. And even when we talked about our predictions and like what games we think were the best this year, Control like rarely comes up. And again, this is just, based on my experience. But this is what this video is about, my experience and why I was so surprised, right? So I'm seeing Control all over the place. I'm like, okay, maybe it's that good. But then Alton drops a gem in the Discord and he says that the same company that published Control is the same company that is bringing Death Stranding to PC. 505 Games, you can see it right here in these screenshots. They are the publisher for Control. And yes, they are on the page for Death Stranding going to PC. You can see right here. So I thought, that's interesting. And I can be a conspiracy head at times. I really can. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, all right, I see what's going on here. There's definitely some fishiness going on because I'm not the only one surprised. A lot of people, they don't understand why Control is nominated. Maybe it's a good game, and I do kind of want to play it now because I want to see what the fuss is about. But that's me thinking, okay, this is legitimate. They think it deserves all these nominations. Now, if it's not legitimate and there's some shadiness going on here, then maybe the game's still good, but maybe not as good as it's looking. So it's just something to think about. There's a lot of connections going on here. And again, Kojima is part of the board when it comes to the award show. But there's a lot of people on there. Phil Spencer's on there. EA, I believe. There's a lot of people in there, a lot of big names. So it's not like it's just Kojima. But it is kind of interesting, the connection here. And with Control having this many nominations, it's either kind of one or the other. Either this game is that damn good, and maybe you guys can let me know in the comment section if it is, because I'm sure there are people who think that. Or maybe there's more going on here. Maybe it's not just Death Stranding we need to think about. Like, that's a given. We kind of knew that was going to happen. At least I did. I just knew Death Stranding would be talked about the most, because it has been. Like, when it really comes to this year, and this is something I can't really take away from the game, for better or for worse, whether you think it's a masterpiece or it's trash, this has definitely been the game talked about the most. And so for it to be on the awards show makes sense, of course. At 10 nominees, maybe, I mean, maybe not. But for it being there, it really has been no surprise. Control, though, really had me scratching my head. I was just like, something's off here. And I'm not saying this is for sure a conspiracy or anything like that. When it comes to award shows in general, whether it's the Oscars, the Grammys, whatever, there's always some kind of bias or something. I really doubt these shows are, just so legit and they make it so that the right winner wins. Sometimes, there's some kind of controversy. Sometimes people get in an uproar thinking this person or this music or whatever should not have won. And that's going to happen here as well. No matter what happens at the Game Awards, Twitter's going to be on fire. Whether Death Stranding wins or it doesn't win the Game of the Year, Twitter's going to be crazy. So I'm looking forward to it when it comes to that stuff. And above all, I don't really take this stuff that seriously. It's fun as a gamer, but I'm not going to be, in an outrage because certain games aren't nominated or they're not recognized. It is a shame that certain ones did get, snubbed, like Fire Emblem, like I mentioned, because that game I thought was a great game. But I mean, it is what it is. Like, sometimes it's just, that's how it works. I'm actually surprised Gears got 3 nominations. I would have guessed 1 at most, because I just feel like Gears doesn't get love like that. And for it to have, 3 nominations, I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe they'll at least win one. So yeah, it's going to be interesting no matter what. I'm of course going to tune in. I'll probably go live or do a video afterwards to give my thoughts. And then maybe on the backlog, we'll talk about it as well before the show, as far as like giving predictions on who's going to win and all of that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to all of that. No matter what happens, good or bad, it's going to be interesting to talk about all of this stuff. I think this time of year is so fun to be a gamer, because we start thinking about our game of the year, and as a content creator, we're making our videos for our favorite games of 2019 and all of that. We're going to be doing that and talking, of course, about the awards and who won and who should have won. And that's always interesting to listen to, especially because we all have such different opinions. But yeah, when it comes to just these awards in general and the nominees, just to reiterate, Control surprised me the most. There are some games I thought that should have been nominated a bit more. And then there's some games that I thought shouldn't even be close to being nominated for certain categories. Like, for example, Apex Legends is nominated for Best Action Game. And it's going up against, Gears, it's going up against DMC5, a couple others. And I'm thinking, why? Where is your shooter category, for one? Like, there's no shooter category. That's where Apex needs to be. Or, best multiplayer, which I believe it is. Those are fine. Like, that would make sense. But best action? And you're going up against games like Gears, DMC5, Sekiro. Actually, Sekiro's not there. That's the problem. Apex should have been Sekiro for that nominee. So yeah, there's just a couple things in there I had issues with. That was one of them. I felt like Apex, as good as it is, and I do enjoy it, should not have been nominated for Best Action Game. It doesn't even have a single player. It's a battle royale game. It's like, what sense does that make? But anyways, when it comes to, DMC5, for example, Best Action Game, that was my vote. I thought, it needs to win that because it's really not nominated for a lot else. I think it's nominated for Best Soundtrack and maybe like one more thing. So there's a few games in there that I really enjoyed, and they're just not nominated that much. And so yeah, I could put my personal feelings into it, like, damn, this award show sucks, but I really don't get to that point because I know kind of what to expect. Like, I know the games I love, sometimes aren't going to get loved by this show. And that's just something I've accepted. So I'm not going to really waste my time going around like being upset or anything like that. But there are people out there who are genuinely upset. And I'm not knocking them. I mean, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. But for me personally, I just don't see the point in like getting upset. I enjoy this time of year, and I enjoy watching the awards and kind of, you know, seeing the back and forth between people. But at the end of the day, it's an award show that we are not a part of. If I had my own, that would be a good time. And the thing that brings me to this last point too, is that with Kojima and, you know, Geoff Keighley, and even though he doesn't vote, and these other heads that are behind this award show, it should not be surprising when certain games get more love. Because let's imagine if I hosted a show. You really think Sekiro ain't gonna get some noms? Like, you really think they, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like even if they don't intend to do it, like let's say they're trying to be as honest as they can, the people voting and the people on the panel and knowing who's behind it and who influences them and all of that, there's gonna be some kind of sway. It just kind of makes sense, like when you think about it that way. And it may not be right, you know, that's a whole conversation, but I do think there is some kind of sway there depending on who is hosting, who created the show, who's behind it. Certain games are gonna get forgotten, and certain games are gonna get way more love than the others. And so it's, again, not surprising at all. And I'm not going to really get upset about it. I'm tuning in. I'm going to be interested, you know, obviously what is going to win. But until then, let me know what you guys think about all of this stuff and the whole 505 games thing. I just thought that was interesting. I wanted to cover it and talk about it. Again, thank you to Alton for bringing that to my attention. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I will catch you guys later. Bye.